Your bench press is going up, you're using more weight on lat pull downs, and even curling more weight, but your arms still don't show all the hard work you put in. At the time of this video, I put in the arm work. We're just blowing them up, and I'm here to show you how you can do the same. Let's get started. Now, one of the most important things to realize about arm training is to focus on not only what's going on at the elbow, but what's going on at the shoulder position as well. To understand that, we first need to understand the muscles we are training, the biceps and triceps. Now be sure to stick around to the end of this video, where I'll go over my top 3 exercises for both the biceps and the triceps that have had the most impact on my arm growth. So the biceps have 2 heads, hence biceps. One of these heads crosses the shoulder joint and helps with shoulder flexion. The biceps also supinate the hand, or turn the palm up, and of course, the biceps bend the elbow, such as when you curl or make a muscle. Now this is important to know so we can reverse engineer the best bicep exercises. When you're trying to grow a muscle, you need to load it under the maximal stretch so you can comfortably get. If we know what a muscle does and how it contracts, then we know to do the opposite to fully stretch it under load, giving us the most bang for our buck. More on that in a second. The triceps, on the other hand, do a lot of the opposite motions. They extend the elbow and extend the shoulder. The triceps don't affect the forearm or wrist, unlike the biceps do, so doing tricep exercises underhand isn't going to be effective for growing them. Just like with the biceps, we want to load the triceps under stretch using the opposite motions of what they do, something overhead and with the elbow bent. This study compared doing tricep pushdowns to overhead cable tricep extensions and found that just by doing elbow extension with the shoulder flex, the triceps grew 1.4 times more than when doing them in a neutral arm position, even with that lower absolute loads. Great! Now we know what to work on, but how we work on them is equally important. Take these incline dumbbell curls for example. Do you think this is a good exercise? We get a load of stretch in the biceps and supination, and we also get the shoulder into an extended position under load. This should be an ideal exercise, right? Well, not exactly. You see, the resistance curve doesn't quite give us the best that other exercises can offer. In this case, the resistance is gravity, just straight up and down. I have least tension at the bottom, where it could essentially hang out there all day. And the most tension when my biceps are almost entirely contracted at 90 degrees or parallel to the ground. Remember, it's not only important to stretch the muscle, but to do it under load. In this case, we get the stretch, but not as much load as we could under the stretch. Compare this to a Bayesian curl, where the resistance is, well, wherever you want it to be. As I set out the cable higher, I have more tension while my bicep is under even more of a stretch. The Bayesian curl blows the incline dumbbell curl out of the water. One way you can make this even better is to be in a kneeling position. Standing requires more energy than kneeling, and if you want the focus to be on curling the most weight you can under control, then you don't want to worry about anything else. A load of stretch is only one of the factors that make a massive set of arms possible. Tension is something to consider as well. This study had one group do incline dumbbell curls, and another group do dumbbell preacher curls. One would think that, even though the incline dumbbell curl isn't the perfect exercise, it still beat the preacher curl due to it stretching out the biceps more. What the researchers found was actually quite the opposite. The group that did the preacher curl saw more growth than the incline dumbbell curl group. What's also interesting about this was that the biceps growth in the preacher curl group wasn't in the biceps, but more the brachialis, which sits underneath the biceps. Even though the biceps weren't being stretched, the preacher curl generated a high amount of tension that made an elbow flexor, brachialis, grow, resulting in bigger biceps. Now the authors of the study noted their method of measuring the biceps growth wasn't perfect. This is only one study. More studies are needed to further validate these findings, but it is something to consider. The incline curl isn't dead though, because some recent research has suggested that there was more biceps growth in the proximal region, or closer to the shoulder, with the incline curl, and more distal, closer to the elbow crease, biceps growth with the preacher curl. An exercise that can generate a high level of tension is a must. In the case for the triceps, I found the underhand grip bench press to be super effective, especially when bending my elbows as much as I can at the bottom. Although it doesn't stretch out the triceps at the shoulder joint, it generates an extremely high level of tension compared to other muscles, and it hits the pecs at the same time. Not as well as a regular bench press, but still a fair amount. Now that we've gone over great exercises that generate a high level of tension, let's look at which exercises are great in a fully lengthened position for the biceps and the triceps. If we want to fully stretch out the biceps under load, we need an exercise that gets us new elbow extension and shoulder extension. Like we talked about earlier in this video, the Bayesian curls are the quintessential bicep exercise in the lengthened position. And we already know the preacher curl's up there, so that and all of its variations are awesome as well. It may sound cliche, but I'll put the easy bar curl in the top 3. I know the easy bar curl doesn't check off a lot of the boxes, hardly any load, or any at the bottom or most stretched position, etc., but it does produce a great amount of tension, and you can lift quite a bit of weight as you progress. I've personally seen a lot of my bicep growth, strength, and development from doing the easy bar curls, especially with a certain technique. More on that later in the video. The overhead cable tricep extensions have been shown to result in more hypertrophy than push downs, so they take a top spot, especially since it fully lengthens the triceps and has some variations with the implement, such as a bar, ropes, etc., and you can sprinkle in single arm variations as well. The reverse grip bench press allows us to produce a high amount of tension in a relatively stretched position, at least from the medial and lateral heads of the triceps. The third spot for tricep exercises would be one of my favorites, the lying overhead swinging easy bar tricep extension. You can load up the easy bar with a good amount of weight, it fully stretches out the triceps under load, and it gets easier at the top part of the exercise. And this is the most ideal for an exercise. We want the hardest part to be in the most stretched position and progressively get easier throughout the same rep. Think about it this way. As you get more fatigued, do you want the exercise to be easier or harder throughout the rep? Obviously easier so you can perform it for more reps and therefore grow more muscle. You might be tempted to do this on an incline bench or standing so you can get even more direct tension in that low to stretch position, but I found these variations to be either awkward or more injury prone than the lying version. With the lying version, if you can't complete another rep and have to drop it, it should just hit the floor and be out of harm's way. If you did the standing, probably wouldn't end well. So these exercises are great and all, but how do we put them to good use? You may not have noticed, but a lot of these exercises can be superset. The program I ran when doing all these for an arm-focused mesocycle was an upper-lower, upper-lower-upper program. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I did upper body. On Monday, I paired the lying overhead swinging easy bar tricep extensions with an incline single arm dumbbell preacher curl. On Wednesday, I paired reverse grip bench press with barbell curls, and on Friday, I paired cable overhead tricep extensions with Bayesian curls. Most of the time, I did 3 sets of each exercise, totaling to 9 sets for biceps and 9 sets for triceps throughout the week. I would even recommend trying to do 4 or even 5 sets of each exercise to really maximize your arm gains. Now obviously your biceps are involved in a lot of pulling movements, your triceps are pushing movements, but there's some debate as to whether or not these compound exercises attribute to much bicep or tricep growth. For example, there's some studies showing rows hardly contribute to bicep growth, but Lat Pulldowns do. This is where there are a lot of individual differences. I tend to lean more on the side of most compound pushing movements can count towards a set for tricep work, but still aim for at least 10 sets of direct tricep work per week, ideally 15 to 20 sets. Similar idea for vertical pulling movements, such as lat pull-downs and pull-ups for bicep growth, but also aiming for a minimum of 10 sets of direct bicep work per week. Obviously your triceps and biceps will get used to the 10 sets of direct volume a week, and it doesn't hurt to increase the sets, but to do them progressively. For a practical takeaway, I'd recommend increasing bicep and tricep volume by 1 to 2 sets every 2 weeks. Relatively speaking, the biceps and triceps are fairly small muscle groups compared to larger muscle groups such as the quads, lats, and glutes, and are also used in heavier compound exercises, so increasing by 1 to 2 direct sets every 2 weeks is a good start. And with anything else, listen to your body. If you increase your direct bicep and tricep work by 1 to 2 sets, this starts to cause some pain, maybe you've reached the higher end of your volume tolerance for these muscles. And it's not a bad thing. It could mean the volume you're doing already is plenty and could just take some time. Some exercises, like the Bayesian curl, won't progress as fast as other exercises like the underhand bench press or barbell curls. Jumping from 22 pounds to 27.5 pounds is a 22.7% increase in weight, which is a pretty big jump for a smaller muscle group, or any in that matter. That's why I like to work in a larger rep range, like 10 to 20 reps, for most arm training at longer muscle lengths. If I did Bayesian curls for sets at 8 to 12 reps, I could hit 12 reps for all the sets and progress by 22%, I probably wouldn't get 8 reps. And if I did, I certainly wouldn't be able to get 8 reps in the next sets. That's why I like to progress with drop sets and mile reps when sets is 15 to 20 get dull. This ensures we can progress with this weight before making a 20+% jump in weight and still challenge the muscle. With heavier exercises, such as preacher curls and swinging overhead tricep extensions, I like to do heavier sets at 6 to 10 reps week 1, drop by 10 pounds for week 2, and drop by 10 more pounds for week 3. Then in week 4, I start it over again, starting with a 6 to 10 rep weight, and try to get more reps than I did in week 1. Then I'll use week 2's weight for week 5, and try to get more reps, and week 3's weight for week 6. This keeps things fresh, and working in a variety of rep ranges is a must for arm training. Well, thanks for watching this video. Like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.